Hello students, we've actually combined lessons 3 and 4 and they're both about volume, and today's lesson should be over pretty quick. I hope you catch on quick as well. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Here's your opportunity to check your completed homework from 18.2, surface area. Alright, our first half of volume is rectangular prisms. So how can you find or determine the volume of a shape like this? Well, first, volume is the number of cubic units. If we split it into little cubes, this is how many cubes we would have in this figure needed to fill the solid figure. To find the volume of this shape, a rectangular prism, you're going to multiply the area of the base, once you find the area of the base, times how tall it is. Well, the common formula that we know is length times width times height, and that's volume, and that's the same as here. We're just changing the wording a little bit so that it's easier to apply to triangular prisms and also cylinders. So the length times the width is also the area of the base, which is just the bottom, the whole bottom layer. And the letter we use, and we'll use in this lesson, is a capital B, and that refers to the area of the whole bottom layer, or the base. And the way that you get that is length times width, but you will just see B times H, but this is what it means with the first clue word of kickball. Likewise, right here, when we have this rectangular prism, we take the length, 14, we multiply it by the width, we get 6, and therefore we get that capital B, which is 84 centimeters squared, because we multiplied two numbers with centimeters, and we actually found the area of the bottom, so it's centimeters squared. Then we're going to multiply that by how tall it is. How many layers of this 84 centimeters are there? Well, we're going to have 8 layers. And when we have 8 layers, how many total cubes do we have? We would have 674 cubes that are 1 centimeter big. So this would be our volume. Notice how volume has that 3, and I read that as cubic centimeters. Going on to the next part. So the other two shapes that we're going to find the area of during this lesson are cylinders and triangular prisms. I'm wondering what's the difference between finding the area of a triangle and a rectangle, because that's going to be very similar to the equations that we're going to use. So when we find the triangular prism, it's going to be exactly the same as a rectangular prism. It's going to be capital B times H, but after we find that answer, we're going to multiply it by 1/2 or divide it by 2, because if we multiply the area of the base times how tall, we're actually finding the area of a rectangular prism, if you see my red lines. But this triangular prism is exactly 1/2 of that area that we would be finding. So we're going to multiply it by 1/2, or the other way to do that is divide it by 2. So if I do 4 times 5, I get 20, multiply it by 3, I get 60, and then I divide it by 2, I get 30. And the last shape that we're going to find is a cylinder, with the last clue word of tournament. So capital B is actually where this helps me understand it. I got to find the area of the base times how many layers of that base, or the height. Well, how do I find the area of a circle? Well, that is actually pi r squared, 3.14 for pi. R is the radius, and we actually multiply it by itself twice. So 2 times 2 is 4. Then we get pi times 4. We used our calculator to get this number, multiply it by the height, and you get your answer. So this whole lesson, you'll use your calculator. Here are the vocab notes for today. You do not need to draw the picture, but please read the definition of volume and these 3 equations. And I've underlined them for your convenience. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. For example 1, number 1, we're finding the area of a rectangular prism. We know that first we're going to find the area of the base, which is width times length. 6 times 2, that's 12 meters squared. Then we're going to multiply it by the height, which is 3 meters. We get 12 times 3, we get 36 meters cubed. So this is 36 cubes that would be a meter big each. Next one is this triangular prism. So we're going to find the area of the base, which is 10 times 7. So we get 70 inches squared, times the height, which is 9. To do that in my head, what is 70 times 10? That's 700. Then I'm going to take away 170. So that's 630 inches cubed. And what do I need to do now? Oh, okay, well that would have been if I found the area of a rectangular prism, but it's not a rectangular prism, it's triangular, so I need to divide it by 2. So I have 630 divided by 2. And so it's 315 inches cubed. For the cylinder, I'm thinking about what the formula of the area of the base is. I see I have the diameter. I know I need the radius. I know the radius is going to be 2. All right, the area is pi r squared. So we got 3.14 times 2 times 2. I'm using my calculator to figure that out, and I found that it is... Alright, I found that as 12.56, and that'll be centimeters squared. I'm going to multiply that by the height, which is 12. Using my calculator once again, I find that that is 150.72 cubic centimeters. If you're wondering what you should have written, you should have all the numbers, and just go ahead and write what I have underlined, but you don't need to have the pictures. At this time, you don't need to draw the figure, but write what you would call it and then find the volume. I'm going to show you how I would do it in 3, 2, 1. So first I'd find the base, which is 3 times 2. And then I'd multiply it by the height, which is 6. So I'd get 36 feet cubed. Please attempt number 2 and come back for the answer. Pause the video, showing in 3, 2, 1. So for this, first I'd find the area of the base, which is going to be 6 times 7, so that's 42 centimeters squared. I'm going to multiply that by height, which is 8 centimeters. I can't really do that in my head, but I'm going to multiply it out. 42 times 8. So that's 336. And I would think I have my answer, except this is a triangular prism, so I need to divide it by 2. So we're going to get 168 centimeters cubed. Please attempt this one, and I'm going to show you how I did it in 3, 2, 1. So I'd find the area of the base, which is pi r squared, which is 3.14 times 4 times 4, and then multiply it by the height, which is 10. After I do that in the calculator, I get 502.4 feet, and I need to make sure I put a little 3 next to it to mean cubic, so I'm finding area. Please try 1, 2, and 3, coming back for the answers in 3, 2, 1. Make sure that you already have the answers. Now we're going to check them. There are your answers for the independent practice. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. At this time, please click the links below for Khan Academy video and practice, and then you may choose one of these 2 other options. Thanks for watching, and you're awesome.